What's up, branders and branding enthusiasts, and really anyone interested in branding and how it's woven into everything we see and touch in society? Welcome to another episode of the Talking with Branders podcast, brought to you by Branders Magazine. I'm your host, Stephen Picanza, and today we're gonna have a good chat. We're joined by the one and only Roger Starkweather, CEO and founder of New Reach, which is a digital experience design agency, and a partner of mine with a new brand, which is a fractional CMO, CBO consultancy. But more on that later. Roger, thanks for joining us. Welcome.
I am absolutely honored and thank you. I appreciate that. Welcome from sunny Seattle.
Is it sunny right now?
It is sunny right now, my friend. Yeah.
Wow. Well, last I spoke with you, I think you were playing the song "Raindrops Are Falling on My Head" because
Totally.
It was a typical Seattle day. This is interesting, branders out there, because Roger and I have had the privilege of working together and knowing each other now going on close to a decade. Having worked at agencies before together, work on our own projects together, and now having a formal partnership. And so, Roger, maybe just take the next minute or so and just let everyone know how we got to today, who you are, and what makes you tick.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thanks. To your point, I mean, we have known each other for almost a decade, and I think that journey has been miraculous on many, many levels. As people evolve, and I think this is similar to brands as well, as everything evolves, we take these learnings, right? We keep layering on these learnings of like how we've gotten here and what we get to share with others. And I think finally, as you've mentioned, really working together day to day on the new brand side, I love the fact that we could lean on years of experience. We finish each other's thoughts, you and I, and we can kind of have that kind of extra, guidance level that most people are looking for when it comes to what to do. And I think that's what really makes me tick. I love giving back. I love being able to kind of share the learnings, hard knock learnings, all those learnings that we've all had, where we literally have no skin on our ass anymore because we've been beat up so many times. But we keep rebounding and reinventing ourselves in a way that hopefully benefits the world and benefits each other and benefits, kind of like just the overall direction that humanity needs to take. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. My day-to-day is running a couple of businesses, like you had said,
Yeah.
Steve. So a New Reach is a digital design technology company where we kind of creatively put content on large video walls in airports, hotels, lobbies, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And that really did lead me to where you and I are gotten today, to tell that story, right? To really have that level of of engagement, but the why behind it, like, why are you doing this, and how can we get to a different position in a competitive zone? Like, where are you in your marketplace standings, and how can we help you by thinking differently? All of these things have kind of led up to how we got here today. In addition to that, as you know, Stephen, I am proud to be the chairman of the board for the Columbia Tower Club, which is a members-only exclusive club here in Seattle, one of 25 clubs in our portfolio, headquartered out of Dallas. So you and I have a lot of connections when it comes to talking to people and making sure that brands are on point. They are doing the appropriate right thing for them, right, and their audiences and their tribes. And I think that's really kind of something exciting that you always bring to the table, is about it's the uniqueness of your tribes and what your people are saying it is. So
well, Roger, no shortage of words for you right out of the gate.
Listen, I just had my coffee. I'm good.
I asked a simple question, and Roger tells us everyone. And that's actually, Roger, something that I find amazing about you and the value that you bring to brand and to businesses is your inquisitiveness, to ask really smart questions and to ask, even sometimes, they always say like there are no dumb questions, right? There's just some people not asking the questions, I suppose. I don't really know what that quote is. Insert that quote here. But no matter what, like you're able to ask those questions. And I think that's a sign of a great strategist, of a great, business person in general, is just being able to ask the why behind the why behind the why. You mentioned it briefly, and I want to go back to it about the Columbia Tower Club, which is it used to be called Club Corp. And they managed Club Corp had golf courses and city clubs and these different verticals underneath it. Now it's called Invited, right? Is that the name?
That is officially the name. They've changed. They had a name change.
They had a name change. How do you? What's your gut say about it?
Oh my! You know what? When it first came out, I literally was kind of like, "What the hell?" It's a verb. Like, I don't understand it. And B, they didn't contact us for any insights on this stuff. And who did this work? So not to dish on anyone, but I think they're trying to be different. And I think I applaud them for that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. And I almost feel like they didn't get the buy-in of the tribes that they needed to have before this was done. Really, that's kind of my gut.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? When going a name change is a heavy lift, right? Like it's a Herculean lift, that isn't for, it's not for everyone. A lot of people, and we've experienced this where we recommend changing names, and all of a sudden, this C-suite takes a back step. Like, whoa, we are actually not that courageous right now, right? But you have to give credit to Club Corp and to their leadership team for taking that plunge, for diving in head first. And again, I don't know what kind of research they provided or they conducted. I don't know, as chairman of the board, I mean, you were not, as you said, like you weren't contacted, or none of the Seattle club was contacted. And I think the name might be questionable to that sense, but it does provoke thoughts, right? And it does make people talk about it.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes that now that it's official and you live with it for a little while, maybe there was a greater insight that we're not understanding, because I think just like Google, for example, as a brand, Google is now a verb, right? Where originally it was like this noun, and so who knows? I mean, everything kind of.
But Google was a word that didn't really necessarily exist in the lexicon of modern day. Invited is used, by everyone all the time. I've invited Roger over to my house. Roger, I've invited you on this podcast.
I know, right?
You know what I mean? So like that's where it makes you kind of scratch your head a little bit. Right. That being said, I think as a brand architecture point, Invited being the hero brand in this sense, on top of the pyramid, Columbia Tower Club is the Seattle pillar, right? Is the Seattle club. And I know that there are talks of how relevant is that name. That name has come to fruition. Now the club is older, 35 years old now.
Yep, 35 years, yep.
Because it sits atop of Columbia Tower, which is the tallest skyscraper in Seattle.
Correct. Yep.
How do you think that, is the name Columbia Tower Club like synonymous with the tower, or has it kind of taken on like a life of its own? Like, I guess a better way to put this question: if all of a sudden Columbia Tower Club had to move out of the building, would Columbia Tower Club still be as relevant as it is today?
And that's a better way of phrasing the question, to be honest. And that's a really great way of thinking about things. No. It's only synonymous because it's in this Columbia Tower. The Columbia Tower has a unique history. 35 years ago, it was started and built by Martin Seelig, and he tried to get into the Rainier Club, right? And so in 1985, he was not allowed in because he was Jewish. And so he said, "Oh, forget that. I'm going to start my own club." And literally, that's the intent and the inspiration on why this club lives today.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah, right. And so you think about history and you think about things like that. And to your point, if they were to move out and to have to get a new place, they would have to go through a name change. They could not call themselves Columbia Tower.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
It's just,
taking that logic and moving it forward, why not live on your futuristic values, on what you're trying to achieve, your North Star, your aspiration, and make that your home?
I love what you just said. Live on your futuristic values. Ah, that's what a great line, Roger. Go ahead. Let's take futuristic values. The city of Seattle
Mm,
is just home of amazing organizations and brands.
I
You
know,
know,
right?
the Amazons, the REIs, the Patagonias, and I'm sure there's others that I'm not
Starbucks,
even Starbucks,
Starbucks.
right?
Well,
How can I?
I think we have a small business called Amazon, something like that.
How could I forget? How could I forget Starbucks as I drink a coffee right now? What is it about Seattle that just breeds this innovation and creating these iconic brands? Like, what is it about? Is it the rain? Is it the weather?
That's a really great question. I think that's the same type of question that you have is like, what is the purpose of life? We don't really know, but I think what it comes down to is like there has always been a pioneer spirit to create in Seattle. Think about the gold rush days. Think about how this was literally a hilly place, and they regraded and carved all the land to be more accessible to populations and the trade that was coming up to Alaska for the gold rush. So literally Seattle has always been this place of needing to survive. And I think out of needing to survive, you come this natural ability to innovate.
I think back to, as a musician, I think back to the great musicians of the 60s that came from Seattle. I mean, Jimi Hendrix just being, the pinnacle of that. And then the grunge era, which redefined music, music in the early 90s. And then like it was the great tech boom. And now these businesses, and now I think Seattle's even reinventing itself from a sporting perspective, knowing that World Cup is coming, All-Star game is this year. The Kraken have not only made the playoffs, but have made history in the NHL playoffs. And what an effing cool brand the Kraken is too.
I know, right? I know. Well, to have that connections to some of these innovative brands here in this city, again, it's just kind of a great playground for you and I. I of course live here, and you've been here many times. But yeah, I think with the talent of Kraken and the foresight, and again, this gets back to aspirational, future aspirational visions. I think that the people in Seattle have that, right? And maybe they have that because of the beauty that we're surrounded by, water and snow-capped mountains and all this other stuff. I was just in LA, and as much as I love LA, I was glad to be home.
Well, let's talk about LA for a second. LA annoys the hell out of me, and maybe that's because I spent so many years in San Diego, and as a part San Diegan, I guess you can call me. We have this FU attitude towards LA, but LA annoys me. What annoys you about branding? Like, LA annoys me for so many reasons, but from a brand perspective, what is it about, just the art of branding and the way branding is today that just kind of gets under your skin?
I don't know if it's so much of annoyance more than it is. I wish people would wake up and understand the importance and the psychology behind it, right? It is so hard for us to do what we love to do and to help others when people are saying, like, you know what, I can go to Wix and just have a logo created,
Right.
and done. I can just use AI and have somebody else do some work for me, and then I'm good. And you and I, that could open up another conversation for you and I, obviously. But I think the annoyance factor for me is that people don't take a moment to stop and think about the future, and that's really all this is about. Like, where are you today? Where do you want to get to tomorrow?
I often have this conversation with people. Like, I love conversations that are about progress and ideas, and I struggle with conversations that are just about people and things, right? And I kind of equate it to like conversation about now or past things that you can't control, and conversations about how to make the future better. And that's such a valid point that you bring up, Roger. Like, people don't brands and executive teams and CEOs, even CMOs to that extent, are not taking the time to just take a step back. And they may not have the time, right? Like they may be running a million miles an hour and have a to-do list that's never ending. So they don't have the luxury of, I'm going to take the next week and just think or read a book that helps shape the future. And I think that's part of the value of the work that we do with the new brand on our fractional work, fractional chief brand officer, is hopefully allowing, executive teams opportunity to think, or just to impart some different fodder into their brain.
And to that point, you really do bring up a good point, because, often, people are not taking the time to just remove themselves to think objectively, a third party point of view, as opposed to, I've got to get this done, it needs to get done kind of thing. And then having people engage with us allows them that chance to step back for just a second. And, you and I are working on a great client right now, which are so busy, right, trying to make sure that the city of Seattle is packed with sports venues and organizations and things like that. But they themselves, kind of know what they want, but they don't know how to get there. And only until we have them stop and commit, right, to a couple of hours of focused conversations does the magic happen.
It's almost like there's such a parallel I find between that and just life in general, right? Like, what's that? Ferris Bueller. We can always sum up everything with a Ferris Bueller quote. Life moves pretty fast, and if you don't stop and look around every once in a while, you're gonna miss it. And that's so true. I think brands get in trouble, and I wrote a great blog post about this a while back. They get in trouble because they overextend themselves and they're not focused. They're almost over branding in a way, and they do it because I sometimes think brands do it for the same reason why when people get nervous, they talk too much, right? It's like a nervous tick. And it's the same reason why I get anxious if I don't have a meeting on my calendar for the day, right? It's like I'm not relevant anymore. People don't care about me, right? But this is my own psychology that I'm talking about. But I think brands are the same thing. Like if we're not pushing the envelope and introducing a new product or a new message or a new this or a new that, then we're going to lose out on our audience. And to some extent, we need to push messaging out to our audience so we stay top of mind. But that messaging and that message that we push out there needs to be strategic and not just a tone deaf message just to push out a tone deaf message.
No, I hear you. And I really love the fact that you kind of have that sense of tying it back to Bueller's Day Off. You should be writing a blog real quickly about a branding stay off, right? Making sure that people are doing exactly that. And I think you can
that's pretty good.
The ballpark out of that one. So
that's pretty good. Well, something that has interested me, right? Just correlating this back to the human experience, right? The human experience as human beings is riddled with peaks and valleys, sometimes within the same hour. But at the end of the day, we're going to persevere, right? We're going to persevere and we're going to push through and it's going to be all right. Like nothing is happening now that has not happened throughout history repeatedly. So with that idea of the peaks and valleys, what does a brand or a business need to do to persevere today in 2023?
Good question. What comes to mind is are you being completely in the moment relevant, right? And I think that if we stop and think about our own existence, we have to be okay with self-love and self-caring, and the same about a brand. Is your brand carrying its own weight today? And if not, let's look at that, right? And if it is, like, are you embracing it and are you sharing that forward and making sure that others are receiving? I think those are things that are interesting about the peaks and valleys, right? I don't know.
I worked with a brand last year. It was a wellness brand, like a CPG wellness brand. And the task was to to pull through like a purpose marketing campaign, right? Everyone wants to be purpose driven today.
Mhm.
Which is, I think, one way to stay hyper relevant to today. But the problem often becomes is, if all of a sudden you're claiming purpose, are we just putting lipstick on a pig? Are those core values that we spoke about earlier, are they actually purposeful, or is this going to fall on deaf's ear because you're not really standing on your laurels?
Exactly.
And I think that's a problem I see. It's almost like to be a purpose-driven brand in 2023 is like a buzzword. It's like, it's the word authentic was in 2018. Everyone wants to be authentic. Not everybody wants to be purpose-driven yet. Yet, are you really purpose-driven? Like a brand that is purpose-driven and inside and outside, they talk about it and it drives their whole ethos is Patagonia. Patagonia is the epitome of, their core values and their day-to-day actions are aligned. And I think too many brands, their core values and their day-to-day actions are not aligned. Yep. And I think that might be how we persevere. It's a really interesting way to look at it. One of the things
it was interesting, Stephen, because I think that, early on in this conversation, you started talking about, kind of what's relevant, what brands are relevant. And I think about the new coming brands, right? The people that are just startup companies, people that are just now creating an entity. How does that brand effort look? How does that brand effort look when it comes to all these innovative new companies? And you just take one sector, and that's like AI. All the companies that are going to come out of the future that will support AI and how we all live with AI, has going to be competing, right? And I think that as humans, we're always competing, whether you like it or not, right? We're competing for love, we're competing for friendship, we're competing for everything, right? It's just human nature for us to make sure that we're blanketed that way, right? So anyway, new coming brands is kind of my point. Like, where are they in the ecosystem of development in longevity? And to me, that's a fascinating space to explore.
It is fascinating because I don't know, like I feel like so many new coming brands, are they in this for the long haul, or are they just thinking about their exit strategy? And granted, I think about exit strategy too, but I also think about longevity, and I don't know, you start to talk about legacy. Legacy starts to pop its friendly word in here. So you got these new brands. They're coming in the market. An interesting dynamic you bring to the table, Roger, is your experience with physical experiences like brand activations, right? Really activating the brand on in the wild, right? On the ground level. You and I have worked on projects together for banks to airports to wax museums to aquariums, and this was all pre-COVID. Except for the bank, which was during COVID, which was unique as hell. Are you seeing, organizations and brands, reinvesting on the brand activation side, on like engaging with their people, in the flesh, as opposed to just like these, digital online experiences? Like, is it making a comeback?
I think it is actually, and we could use a brand that you and I are, have familiar with in a CPG level. But I think at the end of the day, brands should always, give something back, right? And if that's physical, a print, or something kind of heartfelt, what can that be, right? And I think it leads back to, again, everyone trying to be purposeful. So I think that brands, wherever they are in their life model, always have to think about what's in it for my customers, right? What can I do to serve them? As opposed to my brand is what it is, and you're going to come to me because I'm cool. That doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
And so it's always that human element of like, what can the brand do to give back? And again, coming from the physical world, like you were saying, I've been so fortunate to understand, how can we reward somebody for spending time in my space, right? What does that look like?
Especially within retail, right? Retail has been so disrupted even before COVID, retail, we were having conversations about retail and the disruption of retail. And I don't know, maybe it's the romantic in me, but I feel like retail to some extent is bound to make is going to rebound, but it's going to rebound in a way that, or is already rebounding, but in a way that isn't like ever before. Like it's people need to be. No one's just going to window shop in your store and convert. They've got to. I feel like there's a purposeful, retail needs to be a purposeful touch point within the overarching brand strategy. You look at a brand like Bed Bath and Beyond, which just has done everything wrong. I feel,
Yeah.
And I love Bed Bath and Beyond, but like, what the hell happened there? Like they just
Right.
They just fail to innovate as they should.
Well, they just focus on the bottom dollar and offered a 20% coupon to everyone and their mother. Like, that's great, but they're just basically a commodity. Like, who cares?
Right.
You're not saying I'm special or I'm here for a reason. And I think retail is a completely different strategy. It really is. I mean, you've got in LA, I ended up going to the Grove and
oh yeah.
I went and saw the Guardians of the Galaxy 3. I highly recommend it. Anyway.
Oh, cool.
With that in mind, retail was thriving. And that's because people had an outdoor experience. You've got good weather. You've got an open kind of like walking mall aspect where there's places to eat and there's music and there's fountains and there's interesting like faunas and plants. And it's just this environment, right? So I think retail is very much a play sandbox. Kind of like a playground. And then on that playground, you've got little options to choose from. But I was there for almost 4 hours, just taking in everything, and I ended up buying a few things. So yeah.
You look at right before COVID, I had a co-working spot and it was actually located in a mall, which was super unique. I thought it was actually kind of genius. I think the theory of it was genius. The execution was subpar. They didn't last through COVID. They never did it right. But Melissa, my wife, wrote an email to the general manager of the mall and said, I know how to fix everything, right? God bless her. She was like, let me tell you what you need to do. But she was like, well, make it relevant so people who want to come to the mall, whether you're going there for shopping or if there's a co-working environment like I was at, where we have the things that we need for every day at our fingertips, right? It's not just the Build-A-Bear store and a Macy's, but how about a gym? How about a post office? How about, some of these other kind of necessities and it's an indoor mall. It's in New Jersey. It's not sexy by any means, but I think that there are ways to make it sexy and there are ways to make it innovative. And you have to give credit to the Southern California malls. And I know the Grove and, there's Fashion Valley in San Diego and there's other great malls within California where they make it about the experience and the experience is what draws people in. And I think if any retail brand out there is listening, that's your call to action, to think about that experience. Think about that customer experience. Think about how if a newbie, someone who never knew your brand, happened to be walking through a mall, if you are a kiosk, how do you get their attention and convert them? And if you are in a storefront, how do you get their attention and convert them? And like, and it doesn't have to be $1 million build out. Like that's amazing if you could afford that, but you don't need that. You just need to I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier, Roger, take a step back and think.
And think differently, because I think to all of this and relating it back to a brand, I think in the Grove, there was this one entity called Baby Bump, right? And it's this little pouch for moms who are expecting, and their store was made out of pink foam and kids were jumping on top of it. They wanted you to jump on top of their building.
Yeah.
And it was shaped like their product. So
that's awesome.
Thinking differently in a way that, kind of stands out. And that's, to me, is like a great example. But going back to the what you and I get to do every day is it's a strategy behind it, right?
Yeah.
It's pulling back the layers and really sitting for a moment to see the future, understanding where you are today.
I find that there's just so many businesses that, whether you are a nonprofit, a startup, a mature business, or an entrepreneur, a marketer, or you're just a human being that's overwhelmed by modern day society, we can all really benefit from getting some headspace and taking 10 minutes and shit. Roger, I know you are big into meditation, and I am a frustrated, struggling meditator, and as a lot of people are. I think, which is really unique. I think a brand should take 10 minutes and meditate. Like, that's a really interesting concept, right? Like, just have and like the leadership team and like just take that time to think differently and holistically, and just think about the future. And I think if you get nothing out of this episode, it's that, right? Just shut the hell up and take some time to yourself to think.
A branding day off. There you go.
A branding day off. Oh, and with that, talking with branders, this has been a phenomenal episode. Roger, let everyone know how they can get in touch with you. What are your URLs?
Yeah. So you can reach me and us at anewbrand.co. We are just excited to kind of continue sharing our passions with you guys. So that is Roger at anewbrand.co, or the URL anewbrand.co. We'll see you in the universe.
Awesome. And for more on Talking with Branders, you can go to talkingwithbranders.com or brandersmagazine.com. And until next time, everyone, peace out.